live in interesting times.
For the headlines.
President Xi Jinping said Taiwan's unification with the mainland is inevitable, warning against any efforts to promote the island's independence and saying China would not renounce the option of using military force to bring it into the fold.
6 are killed in a rail incident in Denmark, reports say. A tarpaulin from a freight train hit a passenger train going the other way.
And rescuers pulled a baby boy hurt but alive from the ruins of an apartment building where he spent the night in sub-zero temperatures after a gas explosion that killed dozens of people.
And President Donald Trump says is looking forward to another summit with Kim Jong-un after the North Korean leader warned Pyongyang could change its approach to nuclear talks if Washington persists with sanctions.
I'm Alma Angeles, wherever you're watching from around the world. Thank you very much for joining us.
We welcome our viewers here in the Philippines and around the world. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sam Cepeda.
And now to the news. Taiwan's unification with the mainland is inevitable, according to President Xi Jinping on Wednesday, and he warned against any efforts to promote the island's independence and said that China would not renounce the option of using military force to bring it into the fold. China still sees Democratic Taiwan as part of its territory to be reunified, despite the two sides being ruled separately since the end of a civil war on the mainland in 1949.
中国人不打中国人，我们愿意以最大诚意、尽最大努力，争取和平统一的前景。因为以和平方式实现统一，对两岸同胞和全民族最有利。我们不承诺放弃使用武力。 保留采取一切必要措施的选项，针对的是外部势力干涉和极少数台独分裂分子及其分裂活动，绝非针对台湾同胞。我们愿意为和平统一创造广阔空间。 但绝不为各种形式的台独分裂活动留下任何空间。绝路最大。
In his speech, President Xi described unification under a one-country, two-systems approach that would safeguard the interests and well-being of Taiwanese compatriots. But some say the erosion of civil liberties in Hong Kong sets a negative precedent for Taiwan. Taiwan considers itself a sovereign state with its own currency, political and judicial systems, but has never declared formal independence from the mainland. Relations have been strained for the past 2 years since the election of President Tsai Ing-wen, who has refused to acknowledge Beijing's stance that the island is part of China or of one China. On Tuesday, Tsai warned Beijing that Taiwan's people would never give up the kind of freedoms unseen on the authoritarian mainland. Beijing must respect the insistence of 23 million people for freedom and democracy and must use peaceful and equal terms to handle our differences, she said.
Brazil's new far-right president, Jair Bolsonaro, declared a crusade against crime, corruption, and left-wing ideology as he took office Tuesday for a four-year term at the helm of Latin America's biggest nation. In his first public speech wearing the presidential sash, Bolsonaro said Brazil will start to free itself of socialism and political correctness, breaking with policies brought in under decades of leftist rule.
Também é urgente acabar com a ideologia que defende bandidos e criminaliza policiais. Que levou o Brasil a viver um aumento dos índices de violência e do poder do crime organizado.
The 63-year-old former paratrooper and veteran lawmaker received swift congratulations via Twitter from U.S. President Donald Trump. Congratulations to President Jair Bolsonaro, who just made a great inauguration speech. The USA is with you, Trump wrote. Bolsonaro responded by saying, "I truly appreciate your words of encouragement. Together, under God's protection, we shall bring prosperity and progress to our people." Bolsonaro has been compared to Donald Trump for their shared nationalist instincts and brash style, as well as a penchant for Twitter. Tuesday's inauguration took place under a heavy security presence, including snipers and anti-aircraft missiles. In September, Bolsonaro was the target of a failed assassination attempt when he was stabbed at a campaign rally. Those attending Tuesday's event included Hungary's Viktor Orban and Israel's Benjamin Netanyahu, with whom Bolsonaro met this week and is in talks with about moving Brazil's Israeli embassy to Jerusalem. United States President Donald Trump, of whom Bolsonaro is an outspoken admirer, did not attend and instead sent a delegation led by U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. While Bolsonaro is taking power with sky-high approval ratings, many in Brazil fear his stated nostalgia for the country's military dictatorship from 1964 to 1965, his hardline approach to fighting crime, and his record of disparaging women and minorities.
Essa é a nossa bandeira, que jamais será vermelha.
In other news, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo offered a strong assurance of support for Israel when he met Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for talks in Brasilia on the sidelines of the inauguration of Jair Bolsonaro as Brazil's new president. Take a look.
The decision the President made on Syria in no way changes anything that this administration is working on alongside Israel. The counter-ISIS campaign continues, our efforts to counter Iranian aggression continue, and our commitment to Middle East stability and the protection of Israel continues in the same way it did before that decision was made.
A U.S. official with Pompeo said the two men discussed the unacceptable threat that regional aggression and provocation by Iran and its agents poses to Israel and regional security. Israel has conducted several airstrikes in Syria, targeting positions held by Iran and its Lebanese proxy force, Hezbollah.
We have a lot to discuss. We're going to be discussing the intense cooperation between Israel and the United States, which will also deal with the questions following the decision, the American decision on Syria, and how to intensify even further our intelligence and operations cooperation in Syria and elsewhere to block Iranian aggression in the Middle East, to roll it back.
Cuba, long a source of inspiration for leftist Latin American governments, celebrates the 60th anniversary of its revolution, facing increasing isolation in a region dominated by a resurgent right. Watch this.
disposición a convivir civilizada.
Colombia's foreign minister condemned an alleged plot to kill President Ivan Duque and said 3 Venezuelan citizens had been detained in possession of weapons of war.
Se está poniendo en conocimiento de la comunidad internacional que desde hace varios meses se adelantan investigaciones de inteligencia sobre posibles atentados contra la vida del presidente. A esto se suma la reciente captura.
Now he said that 3 Venezuelans in possession of weapons of war had been captured in connection with such plots without going into further details. The announcements come amid tensions between Bogota and Caracas following the mutual expulsion of officials from both nations and the presence earlier this month of Russian long-range bombers in Venezuela. President Duque has called upon the countries that defend democracy to not recognize the government of Nicolas Maduro, who begins a new term on January 10 after being re-elected in polls that were boycotted by the opposition and branded a fraud by the international community. Now, Maduro, for his part, has said the future government of Brazil under President-elect Jair Bolsonaro, Colombia, and the United States are all involved in plotting a coup in Venezuela and want to assassinate him.
Alerta, oído. Máxima alerta frente a las conspiraciones de la traición que viene de Bogotá, financiada desde Washington. Máxima alerta.
A British police probe into a triple stabbing at a Manchester railway station on New Year's Eve, which injured 3 people, is now being treated as a terrorist investigation, the city's top officer said. Counter-terrorism officials have arrested a man who remains in police custody and are searching an address where he recently lived in the northwestern English city, Chief Constable Ian Hopkins said. The suspect reportedly shouted Allah during what Hopkins called a horrific attack on 3 people, including a police officer, at Manchester Victoria Station on Monday evening.
I know that the events of last night will have affected many people and caused concern, particularly as the incident happened so close to the scene of the terrorist attack on the 22nd of May 2017. I believe this makes it an even more dreadful attack for our city. We are treating this as a terrorist investigation, which is being led by counter-terrorism officers with support from Greater Manchester Police. We're working throughout the night to piece together the details of what happened and to identify the man who was arrested. Our work will continue to ensure we get to the full facts of what happened and why it took place.
In a statement, Greater Manchester Police said the suspect has been assessed by specialist staff and detained under the Mental Health Act. No group has claimed responsibility for the attack, which happened at around 8:50 p.m. when many people in the city would have been enjoying New Year's Eve celebrations. Witness Sam Clark, 38, a BBC radio producer, said he heard the suspect shouting Allah before and during the attack. The witness said he heard the most blood-curdling scream and looked down the platform to see the attack unfolding.
Meanwhile, a man has plowed his car into a crowd of people in western Germany, injuring at least 4 in what authorities say was an intentional attack on foreigners. Police said the 50-year-old driver of a silver Mercedes first attempted to hit a group of people in the city of Bottrop shortly after midnight, but the pedestrians were able to jump out of the way. The suspect, a German man, then drove into the center of Bottrop where he slammed his car into a crowd. Police said those hit included Syrian and Afghan citizens, and some were seriously injured. The driver then sped off toward the nearby city of Essen, where he tried, and then he failed to hit people waiting at a bus stop before being arrested by police. The driver, whose name was not released, made anti-foreigner comments during his arrest, and there were indications he suffered from mental illness, according to police. It is not the first time a vehicle has been used as an apparent weapon in Germany. In April, a German man drove a man into a crowd in Munster, killing 4 people and injuring dozens. The driver, who had sought psychological help in the weeks preceding the attack, then killed himself. On December 19 of 2016, a Tunisian man drove a truck into a busy Christmas market in Berlin, killing 12. Islamic State claimed responsibility for that attack. The driver who fled the scene was later killed in a shootout with police in Italy.
Japan's Emperor Akihito delivered his final New Year's address Wednesday before his abdication later this year, telling tens of thousands of well-wishers that he was praying for peace.
新年おめでとう。晴れ渡った空の下、皆さんと共に新年を祝うことを誠に嬉しく思います。本年が少しでも多くの人にとり、良い年となるよう願っています。年頭にあたり、我が国と世界の人々の安寧と幸せを祈ります。
The Imperial Palace said more than 114,600 people had flocked to the royal residence by early Wednesday afternoon, with more still arriving for a final chance to see the 85-year-old royal deliver his traditional annual greeting. The emperor will become the first Japanese monarch to abdicate in around 2 centuries when he steps down from the throne on April 30, ending his 3-decade reign. Akihito shocked the country in 2016, but he signaled his desire to take a back seat, citing his age and health problems. His eldest son, Crown Prince Naruhito, is set to ascend the chrysanthemum throne a day after his father's abdication, continuing the rule of the world's oldest imperial family. The status of the emperor is sensitive in Japan, given its 20th century history of war waged in the name of Akihito's father, Hirohito, who died in 1989. Akihito has keenly embraced the more modern role as a symbol of the state imposed after World War II ended. Previous emperors, including his father, had been treated as semi-divine. The palace, surrounded by stone walls and mossy moats, is open to the public twice a year on the emperor's birthday and the second day of New Year for the royal family to greet well-wishers. In a rare emotional address to mark his 85th birthday last month, Akihito pointed to the countless lives lost in the war.
Saki no taisen de 多くの人命が失われ、また我が国の戦後の平和と繁栄がこのような多くの犠牲と国民のたゆみない努力によって築かれたものであることを忘れず、戦後生まれの人々にもこのことを正しく伝えていくことが大切であると思ってきました。平成が戦争のない時代として終わろうとしていることに心から安堵しています。
Akihito has worked to bring the royal household closer to the people and frequently visited the disadvantaged and families hit by natural disasters.
Eagle News International will be right back. Stay tuned.
Tungkulin ng MTRCV ang mag-provide na appropriate ratings sa lahat ng TV shows. Para ugaliin ng pamilya ang responsableng panonood. Teamwork tayo, parents! Rated G, good for all! Oops, rated PG! Dapat may mga magulang para sagutin ang mga tanong ng kabataan. Grabe, rated SPG, maselan!
Higpitan ang paggabay.
Pag rated MTRCB, rated responsable.
Landmarks, Linggo, alas 6 hanggang alas 7 ng gabi.
I am here at Gastown, which is a National Historic Site in Vancouver, British Columbia. Located in Vancouver's oldest neighborhood is the steam-powered clock, which is Gastown's most famous landmark. Make sure to tune in to Digital Nest every Tuesday and Thursday at 7:30 p.m. I am Lou Aquino, EBC correspondent, and I am 1 with 25.
The Department of Foreign Affairs on Wednesday said no Filipino was among the wounded in a car crash that injured 9 persons on one of the busiest streets in Tokyo. According to the Philippine Embassy in Japan, the victim sustained minor to serious injuries after a 21-year-old man deliberately plowed into a crowd of New Year revelers gathered in the tourist and shopping district of Harajuku early Tuesday. The driver was immediately taken into custody by authorities who are investigating the incident as an act of terrorism. According to reports, the vehicle rammed down the narrow street of Takeshita, a popular tourist destination, Japan, and the focal point of Harajuku teenage culture and fashion. The DFA said no Filipino was affected by the incident, as conveyed by the Philippine Embassy in Tokyo after checking with Japanese authorities. The Philippine Consulate General Robespierre Bolivar said there are around 33,000 Filipinos in the Tokyo metropolitan area.
Six people were killed Wednesday and an unspecified number were injured in a train accident on a bridge connecting two islands in Denmark, rail operator DSB said. Local media reports suggest a tarpaulin from a freight train hit a commuter train during a heavy storm, forcing it to brake suddenly. The accident occurred around 7:30 a.m. on the Great Belt Bridge connecting the islands of Zealand, where Copenhagen is located, and Funen. There were 131 passengers and 3 crew on board. Car and rail traffic on the bridge were closed for several hours due to the accident, but car traffic towards Zealand later resumed, while rail traffic remained shut in both directions. The Great Belt fixed link consists of a road suspension bridge and a railway tunnel between Zealand and the small island of Sprogo, and a bridge for both road and rail traffic between Sprogo and Funen. Tens of thousands of vehicles cross the bridge every day, and the storm had already caused several accidents on the road bridge earlier on Tuesday.
Russian rescuers pulled a baby boy, hurt but alive, from the ruins of an apartment building where he spent the night in sub-zero temperatures after a gas explosion that killed dozens of people. Take a look. With dozens of inhabitants still missing, authorities identified the 10-month-old boy as Ivan Fokine and said he had been reunited in hospital with his mother, who also survived the ordeal. The boy was taken to hospital in Moscow in an extremely serious condition with severe frostbite to his limbs, a head injury, and multiple leg fractures, according to the health ministry. He will be transferred to a hospital in Moscow for specialized treatment. Rescuers hunted for more survivors Wednesday, but found only bodies as the number of confirmed dead now rose to 18. 6 people, including 2 children, had been rescued, and 23 people were still missing.
President Donald Trump says he looks forward to another summit with Kim Jong-un, a day after the North Korean leader warned Pyongyang could take a different approach to nuclear talks if U.S. economic sanctions persist. According to a tweet, I also look forward to meeting with Chairman Kim, who realizes so well that North Korea possesses great economic potential, Trump said in a brief tweet. The U.S. leader made his comment after citing news coverage of Kim's New Year remark that the North had declared it would neither make nor test nuclear weapons any longer or proliferate them. At a summit with Trump in Singapore in June, the two signed a vaguely worded pledge on the nuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. The progress has since stalled, with Pyongyang and Washington arguing over what that means. Trump has previously said that he hopes to have a second meeting with Kim early this year. But the North is demanding relief from the multiple sanctions over its banned nuclear weapons and ballistic missile programs, and has condemned U.S. insistence on its nuclear disarmament as gangster-like. Kim, in his New Year's speech, said that if the U.S. continues with sanctions, we may be compelled to find a new way for defending the sovereignty of the country and the supreme interests of the state.
다만 미국이 세계 앞에서 한 자기의 약속을 지키지 않고 우리 인민의 인내심을 오판하면서 일방적으로 그 무엇을 강요하려 들고 의연히 공화국에 대한 제재와 압박으로 나간다면 우리로서도 어쩔 수 없이 부득불 나라의 자주권과 국가의 최고 이익을 수호하고 조선반도의 평화 안정을 이루기 위한 새로운 길을 모색하지 않을 수 없게 될 수도 있습니다. 나는 앞으로도 언제든 또다시 미국 대통령과 마주 앉을 준비가 되어 있으며 반드시 국제사회가 환영하는 결과를 만들기 위해 노력할 것입니다.
Thailand's royal palace says the coronation of King Maha Vajiralongkorn will be held in May. King Maha Vajiralongkorn, 66, has been serving as the constitutional monarch of the Southeast Asian nation since shortly after his father, King Bhumibol Adulyadej, died in October 2016 at the age of 88. His official coronation has been delayed until after a period of mourning for King Bhumibol, who reigned for 7 decades and was revered as a semi-divine figure in Thailand. His coronation will come 2.5 months after Thailand's general election on February 24, the first since 2011, and will coincide with the anniversary of Bhumibol's coronation on May 5, 1950. A 3-time divorcee, Vajiralongkorn ascended the throne unmarried. He has 5 sons and 2 daughters, is ranked as the richest monarch in the world by Business Insider in May with a net worth of $30 billion.
Starting this month until March 1, all foreigners are directed to register in person at the nearest Bureau of Immigration or BI office for their annual reporting. BI Commissioner Jaime Morente said the annual reporting of aliens is required under the 1950 Alien Registration Act. Under the said act, all BI registered aliens are required to report to the BI main office in Intramuros, Manila, or to the nearest participating BI field, satellite, or extension office from their place within the first 60 days of every calendar year. Morente said, also warned that non-compliance may result in fines or cancellation of the registration. Covered by the law are resident foreign nationals who have been issued immigrant or non-immigrant visas and are holders of the Alien Certificate of Registration Identity Card or ACR I-Card. The BI chief noted that in the annual reporting, each alien must present his original ACR I-Card and his valid passport, pay a 300 peso annual report fee and a 10 peso legal research fee. Foreigners who are out of the country during the annual reporting period may make the report within 30 days from the date of their return to the country, provided they have valid re-entry permits, he added. Aliens below 14 years old are exempted from personal appearance, and it shall be the duty of their parent or guardian to represent them. Also exempted are senior citizens aged 65 years old and above. However, they are still required to pay the fees and fill out the form.
Last year, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres issued a red alert on several dangers confronting the world, dangers that still persist today. He reiterated that climate change is running faster than we are, and that deepening geopolitical divisions are making conflicts more difficult to resolve. Take a look.
Last New Year, I issued a red alert, and the dangers I mentioned still persist. These are anxious times for many, and our world is undergoing a stress test. Climate change is running faster than we are. Geopolitical divisions are deepening, making conflicts more difficult to resolve. And record numbers of people are moving in search of safety and protection. Inequality is growing, and people are questioning a world in which a handful of people hold the same wealth as half of humanity. Intolerance is on the rise, trust is on the decline, but there are also reasons for hope. It's time to seize our last best chance. It's time to stop uncontrolled and spiraling climate change. In recent weeks, the United Nations also oversaw landmark global agreements on migration and refugees that will help to save lives and overcome damaging myths. And everywhere, people are mobilizing behind the Sustainable Development Goals, our global blueprint for peace, justice and prosperity on a healthy planet. When international cooperation works, the world wins. In 2019, the United Nations will continue to bring people together, to build bridges and create space for solutions. We will keep up the pressure, and we will never give up.
The United Nations Children's Fund, or UNICEF, said an estimated 395,072 babies will be born around the world on New Year's Day, and called on nations to meet every newborn's right to health and survival. UNICEF said a quarter of the newborns will be born in South Asia alone. UNICEF said in cities around the world, revelers would welcome not only the new year with great festivities, but also their newest and tiniest residents. As the clock strikes midnight, UNICEF expected Sydney to greet an estimated 168 babies, followed by 310 in Tokyo, 605 in Beijing, 166 in Madrid, and finally 317 in New York. UNICEF said Fiji in the Pacific would most likely deliver 2019's first baby, and the United States its last. Globally, over half of these births are estimated to take place on 8 countries: India, India, China, Nigeria, Pakistan, Indonesia, the United States of America, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Bangladesh. However, UNICEF said many babies would not make it past their first day in 2017. About 1 million babies died the day they were born, and 2.5 million in just their first month of life. Among those children, most died from preventable causes such as premature birth, complications during delivery, and infections like sepsis and pneumonia, a violation of their basic right to survival. 2019 marks the 30th anniversary of the adoption of the Convention on the Rights of the Child, and UNICEF said it would be commemorating the occasion with worldwide events throughout the year. It said over the past 3 decades, the world has seen remarkable progress in child survival, cutting the number of children worldwide who die before their 5th birthday by more than a half. But there has been slower progress for newborns, with babies dying in the first month accounting for 47% of all deaths among children under 5. Through its Every Child Alive campaign, UNICEF called for immediate investment to deliver affordable, quality health care solutions for every mother and newborn. These include a steady supply of clean water and electricity at health facilities, the presence of a skilled health attendant during birth, ample supplies and medicines to prevent and treat complications during pregnancy, delivery and birth, and empowered adolescent girls and women who can demand better quality of health services. We'll be back with more news right after this break.
ASEAN in Focus, Monday to Friday, 2 to 2:30 p.m.
With gorgeous white sandy beaches that stay cool to touch even on the hottest summer days, blue-green ocean waves, and the warm ocean breeze, there's no wonder why Dr. Beach has named Siesta Key, Florida, the #1 beach in the United States. Don't forget to watch episodes of Digital Next every Tuesday and Thursday at 7:30 p.m. I'm Melissa Protest, coming to you from Siesta Key, Florida, and I am one with 25.
Welcome back. Asian and European markets plunged Wednesday, starting the new year by extending a slide that made 2018 the worst in a decade, as fresh data reinforced worries about the stuttering Chinese economy. With a number of potential banana skins dotting the next 12 months, including the China-US trade row and Brexit, dealers are keeping to the sidelines as they look for signs of stability. Hong Kong led the losses, tumbling 2.8%, while Shanghai shed more than 1% after two indicators showed Chinese manufacturing activity shrank in December. A private purchasing managers index, or PMI, from Caixin Media and IHS Market PMI came in at 49.7 from 50.2 in November and below the 50-point mark between contraction and growth. Now that came days after the official PMI registered 49.4. The readings were both around lows not seen since 2017 and are the latest to highlight problems in the world's #2 economy as Beijing struggles with the US trade war while also trying to address a dangerously high debt mountain. And Jingyi Pan, a market strategist at IG Asia, told Bloomberg News the reading was a reminder of the US-China trade tensions and brings back to the surface worries on growth.
Officials talk about disaster preparations after picture postcard Tanjung Lesung, a cornerstone of Indonesia's bid to supercharge its tourism industry, was pummeled by a deadly tsunami that raised fresh questions about the tourism sector's plan for coping with earthquakes, floods, volcanic eruptions, and tsunamis.
Okay, in terms of disaster, I think disaster can happen in any places in Indonesia. What is important then? The most important thing is we have to provide a mitigation plan.
Tentunya kita dengan ini bisa belajar bahwa kedepannya perlu mungkin pemerintah banyak lagi misalnya bangunan-bangunan pemecah gelombang, breakwater, sehingga apabila terjadi ada gelombang yang tinggi itu bisa diantisipasi, dikurangi daya terjangnya ke lokasi pantai.
About 42% of Indonesia's 14 million foreign tourists headed to the popular resort island of Bali last year, giving a $17 billion boost to Southeast Asia's biggest economy. Indonesia is one of the most disaster-prone nations on Earth, straddling the Pacific Ring of Fire, where tectonic plates collide. And the frequent disasters it has suffered recently, such as the Sulawesi quake, tsunami, have highlighted the country's woeful state of preparedness. Early warning system in the city of Palu on Sulawesi and elsewhere had not been working since 2012 because of budget shortfalls and bureaucratic bungling.
Now, she doesn't have a wrinkle, and yet this year Barbie is turning 60. Behind the scenes at the Mattel Studios in Los Angeles, designers are working hard to keep the famous doll a popular toy, but with sales falling 18% this year amid stiff competition from video games and virtual reality, the question is whether Barbie needs more than just a makeover. Take a look.
A quick stroke here, a touch of paint there, and an American icon comes to life.
Basically, I'm painting features of the doll on the sculpt. It takes a lot of practice. It has to be precise.
It's that attention to detail that helps sell 58 million dolls around the world each year, making her brand akin to McDonald's or Coca-Cola. And all Barbie prototypes are crafted here, in the top secret Mattel Studios in Los Angeles, where designers choose everything from her eye color to her clothing. Carlisle is Barbie's personal stylist.
And then if I want, a princess theme. One thing, obviously, that we have to keep in mind with Barbie is scale. So not just, like in terms of size, for example, something like this, these sequins are tiny. So on a Barbie doll, on a Barbie body, it works, and it looks appropriate and proportionate.
Barbie, you're beautiful. Making her debut in 1959 at a New York trade show, Barbie was the first doll with a grown woman's body. But she has since drawn her fair share of criticism, not only for her long legs and skinny waist, but also for the lack of diversity among the dolls. In recent years, Mattel has released Barbies of mixed race and with more attainable physiques.
Barbie. Dr. Barbie's into making her patients feel good.
The toy company also points to Barbie's more than 180 professions, such as Surgeon Barbie, Astronaut Barbie, and Firefighter Barbie. But the blonde Californian doll is also seen as superficial, rich, and lazy, a stereotype Mattel is eager to distance itself from in the Me Too and Time's Up era.
It is a new kind of day, and certainly as a doll that represents a female, it's really important to have a positive message and to kind of, talk to girls or to kids and talk about, being able to do these different things.
A new message for the next generation of women, with the goal of keeping Barbie young for another 60 years.
Our EBC North America Bureau takes a look back at the stories they've covered in 2018, stories that mattered to you in these interesting times. Eliza Manglikmot reports.
We welcome 2018 with you at the much-anticipated New Year's Day Tournament of Roses Parade in Pasadena, California. But very shortly after that heartwarming welcome, a powerful winter storm dubbed as the Bomb Cyclone rocked the eastern United States. Our Eagle News East Coast teams braved the biting cold to bring you the latest on the very powerful and extremely dangerous blizzard. A more damaging life storm, The Stoneman Douglas High School shooting in February sparked outrage from students who survived the attack, creating a ripple throughout the country, bringing about a nationwide school walkout pushing for stricter gun control. Eagle News correspondents were there documenting the protests. In April, EBC North America celebrated the network's 50th year with the U.S. launch of EBC Cares. EBC Washington, D.C. reached out to a shelter for women who were victims of domestic violence. A month later, in May 2018, more than 200 correspondents from all over the globe joined the network's coverage of the worldwide walk to fight poverty. Dozens of EBC correspondents in North and South America, Europe, Asia, Africa, and Australia brought you to the start line and met you at the finish line for this 48-hour live international broadcast. And throughout the year, we brought you to places that spoke history, events that introduced intercultural culinary experiences, and natural treasures found in your backyards. We enjoyed exploring things with you, covering events about technology, lifestyle, entertainment, sports, art and culture, travel, and celebrations. We here in EBC advocate appreciation and protection of animals and the environment. As part of the community, we cannot forget to bring you news concerning our neighborhoods. And because we aim to deliver stories that matter to you, in 2018, we shared with you information about current events and breaking news, the weather, heightened community service, and most importantly, stories that share love with and give hope to the community. For Eagle News, I am Eliza Gonzalez Manglikmot, always one with 25.
Thanks, Eliza. Meanwhile, how do Filipinos in Japan celebrate the New Year? Let's find out more from Dennis Liu.
A whole new culture embraces the observation of the New Year in Japan. Contrary to the lively and noisy celebration in the Philippines, made interesting with a lot of parties and firework displays, New Year in Japan is simply quiet and peaceful. No fireworks, no parties, no New Year's Eve celebration. Indeed, it is the exact opposite of how it is in the Philippines. However, Filipinos still never miss out on the fun. In fact, various Filipino communities here in Japan have different ways of livening up the holiday. Let's see how Filipinos in Japan celebrate the New Year.
Kami po as a trainee, malayo po kami sa pamilya namin. Nagse-celebrate po kami ng New Year, kasama po yung aming mga co-workers. Kakaroon po kami ng mga potluck, may konting kantahan po. Tumatawag rin po kami sa aming pamilya sa Pilipinas para kasabay rin po namin silang sinasalubong yung New Year.
Dahil nga po malayo po kami sa amin po mga pamilya, kami po mismo na magkakapatid namin sa pananampalataya at mga kasama po namin sa trabaho, sa apartment, isasama-sama nga po kami sa gabi po yun upang ipagdiwang po yung darating na bagong taon. Kahit pa paano, maibsan po yung lungkot namin dahil hindi nga po namin kasama sa araw na yun.
Sineselebrate namin sa Japan ang bagong taon ng New Year as family. Medyo similar din po sa paano namin sineselebrate sa bansang Pilipinas. Nagpapatunog kami ang mga gamit namin sa bahay. Naghahanda din kami.
Pag-celebrate po ng New Year, simple lang po sa pero masaya po kami sa lahat. At magpapasalamat po kami sa mga pinagkakalog po sa akin.
Hindi po namin nakakalimutan na bago matapos yung taon, nagpapanata po kami sama-sama.
Sa loob ng aming tahanan, nagdidiwang kami, nagluluto. Pagkatapos pagdating ng hatulat din, alas 12, mananalangin kami lahat. And then, yung salo-salo kami magdidiwang ng New Year, meron kami mga nilutong magkain na mga lutong Pinoy na pinasasabihan ng bawat isang namin. Yun ang hinihahanda namin pag ganito sumasapit ang New Year.
While far away from their homeland, in a country where New Year celebration is simply different and misconceived as lonely, the fun-loving and naturally happy Filipinos, having preserved their culture, still remain Filipinos at heart, and hence spreading fun, colors, and happiness everywhere they are in the world. Reporting from Tokyo, Japan, this is Dennis Liu for Eagle News. I'm 1 with 25.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you, Dennis. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Tumblr. Also check out our boards and Pinterest and pictures on Instagram. I'm Sam Cepeda. Thanks for joining us.
And that's it for tonight's broadcast. I'm Alma Angeles and
we're 1 with 25.